In the heart of the antebellum South, amidst the sprawling cotton fields of the Oak Haven plantation, a story unfolded that would be whispered in hushed tones for generations. It's a tale of forbidden love, of a bond that dared to defy the brutal chains of its time. This is the story of Thomas, the overseer's son, and Elara, a young woman whose spirit refused to be broken. Thomas was not like his father, a man hardened by the cruel system he upheld. Where his father saw property, Thomas saw humanity. He had grown up on Oakhaven, his playground the very fields where people were forced into servitude. From a young age, his heart was troubled by the stark injustice he witnessed daily. His gaze would often drift from his ledgers and books to the faces of those who toiled under the blistering sun, and one face in particular began to capture his attention more than any other. Her name was Elara. She possessed a quiet dignity, a resilience that shone in her eyes despite the world's attempts to extinguish it. Thomas would watch her from afar, admiring the gentle way she cared for the younger children, the way she would hum a soft, mournful tune that seemed to carry the weight of her ancestors. He started finding excuses to be near the fields, offering water, a small kindness that felt like a rebellion in itself. Their first real conversation was a stolen moment behind the old smokehouse. Thomas, fumbling with his words, simply said, "You're singing. It's beautiful." Elara, startled, looked at him with caution, the fear of her station etched into her features, but she saw no malice in his eyes, only a sincere, almost boyish nervousness. A small, hesitant smile touched her lips. "It's just an old song," she replied softly. That small exchange was the seed from which a dangerous and beautiful love would grow. Secretly they began to meet. Their sanctuary was a hidden grove by the creek, shielded by weeping willows. There, under the moonlit sky, they were not the overseer's son and a slave. They were just Thomas and Elara. He taught her to read, using a worn copy of Shakespeare he had hidden. Her mind was a thirsty sponge, soaking up every word, every story of a world beyond the confines of Oakhaven. In return, she taught him about the stars, the folklore of her people, and the unyielding power of hope. In that hidden grove they fell deeply in love. Thomas dreamed of a future where they could be together, a future far away from the grasping hands of his father and the society that would condemn them. He started saving every penny he could, secretly planning their escape to the north, where the promise of freedom, however faint, was a beacon of hope. "We'll go to Philadelphia," he'd whisper, holding her hands. "We'll have a small home, and you can sing all day, and no one will ever tell you to stop." Elara would listen, her heart aflutter with a mixture of hope and terror. The dream was beautiful, but the risk was immense. Their secret, however, was as fragile as a spider's web in a storm. A jealous field hand, seeking favor with the overseer, noticed their clandestine meetings. He saw the light in Elara's eyes when Thomas was near, the lingering glances, the shared smiles that were out of place in their grim world. His whispers, laced with poison and envy, soon reached the ears of Thomas's father, a man for whom control was everything. The overseer's fury was a force of nature. He couldn't comprehend his son's betrayal. To him, Thomas's love for Elara was not just a youthful folly. It was an unforgivable defiance of the natural order he so brutally enforced. He confronted Thomas, his voice a low growl of thunder. When Thomas, with a courage he didn't know he possessed, confessed his love and his intention to free Elara, his father's rage exploded. But his punishment was not for his son. In a display of ultimate cruelty, he decided to punish Thomas by destroying the one thing he loved. The overseer didn't whip Elara, he didn't sell her, he did something far more psychologically devastating, something that would become a dark legend on the plantation. He arranged for Elara to be given to his son, not as a wife, not as a free woman, but as his personal property, forcing Thomas into the very role of master that he so despised. The overseer presented Elara to Thomas in front of all the other slaves, a twisted ceremonial mockery of their love. "She is yours now, son," he declared, his voice dripping with venom. "Do with her as you please. She is your responsibility, your property." The act was designed to break them both. It was meant to turn Thomas's love into the bitter ashes of ownership, to force him to see Elara not as his equal, but as a possession. The days that followed were an agonizing torment. Thomas refused to treat Elara as property. He moved her into a separate, better room in the main house, ensuring she had food and comfort, but the invisible walls between them were now higher than ever. They were no longer two souls meeting in secret. They were a master and his slave, their relationship now a public spectacle of his father's cruelty. The other slaves watched with a mixture of pity and resentment. Elara, trapped in this gilded cage, felt the weight of every stare, her spirit slowly eroding under the constant humiliation. The hidden grove by the creek fell silent. Their secret language of love was replaced by the stilted formal interactions of their new horrific reality. Thomas could see the light dimming in Elara's eyes with each passing day. His father's punishment was working. It was a slow, soul-crushing poison, designed not to break the body, but to shatter the heart. Thomas knew he couldn't let it happen. His dream of escape was no longer a distant hope. It was their only salvation. One moonless night, Thomas made his move. He had finalized his plans, using his knowledge of the plantation to plot a path to freedom. He went to Elara's room, his heart pounding in his chest. "We're leaving," he whispered, his voice shaking with urgency. "Tonight, now." Fear and a glimmer of hope battled in Elara's eyes. She trusted him. She took his hand, and together they slipped out into the darkness, leaving the gilded cage and the nightmare of Oakhaven behind. Their journey was perilous, a desperate flight through treacherous swamps and dense forests, with the constant fear of patrolmen and their hounds at their heels. But their love, tested and forged in the fires of cruelty, was their compass. They moved under the cover of darkness, guided by the North Star that Elara had taught him about so long ago. After weeks of exhaustion and terror, they finally crossed the Mason-Dixon line, collapsing into the arms of abolitionists who helped them on the final leg of their journey. In Philadelphia, they were finally free, free from the chains of Oakhaven, free from the shadow of Thomas's father. They married, and Thomas found work as a carpenter. Elara's voice, once silenced by sorrow, filled their small home with songs of freedom and joy. Their story became a legend, not the one of cruelty that the overseer had intended, but one of defiance. It was a testament to a love that refused to be defined by hate, a love that broke its chains and found its own freedom, a love that proved that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit, when bound by love, can overcome anything. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel for more tales of history and humanity. We'll see you in the next video.